we're back. So we started the video, and apparently it was sideways. So we're going to try it vertically, and hopefully that will fix the situation. So again, if you're tuning in, my name is Tara Ingalls, owner of Tingalls Graphic Design. So we thought we would do, and this is Rebecca. She's account manager with Tingalls. And we thought we'd answer some of your burning marketing questions and give you some free advice on what we would do or how we would approach situations and questions that you guys might have as clients, vendors, friends, friends of friends. So we have pre-populated some questions here that, some of them we pulled out because we think they're commonly asked questions, but we encourage you, if you're watching, we've got 2 people watching, woo! If you're watching, to ask us questions as we go so that this can be of value to you, and then at the end, we're going to upload it to YouTube and then put it on our website page so that people can revisit it. So, so for those of you who don't know about Tingalls, we are a graphic design firm. We've been in business since 2000, and we help small businesses, startups, with their graphic design, logo, print, and web development. We also are a phenomenal resource for larger companies that want to lower their overhead by outsourcing their graphic design work and not hiring a designer on their team. So we do that for a lot of companies that just have the marketing folks on staff or a marketing rep on staff, but just don't have the graphic design skills. We thought that we could come in and fill a need there, and we've been doing that for a couple companies now over the last couple years, and it's been great. So thanks, Eric, for all the love. Appreciate that.
Hi, Eric.
So Eric, if you've got any questions about any marketing that we're doing for you, feel free to shout it out. But probably the first question and the most common question that I get is, I have a new business, where should I start? So because about 80%, 75% of Tingalls businesses are all startup and small business, all of the products at our company and are geared towards someone with a very small budget. So the first thing I would do as a small business is, after you have your business name, after you have your entity formation, you've registered with the state, so you've really got kind of those, check off items on your list. I think one of the things that you should do is a professional logo design. So there's a lot of places that can provide you with a professional logo design, whether or not you're looking for something very intricate or something really simple. I think getting an idea of what you're looking for the logo design would be a really great start. The logo really catapults everything after that point, from your business cards to your Facebook profile image to your website, trade show, whatever you do after that point. So I really do feel like the logo is somewhere where you should spend some time, spend some dollars, and spend some time with that. Would you agree?
I would agree, and actually it's funny that you think that's the first piece that we should start off with, because there was another question of saying, like, what are the benefits of using other companies that offer free design if you will do the print, or companies that will do it for like $100 online or whatever it may be. And I think you and I have kind of talked about, how do you stay relevant and current in the industry, and what do you get when you go with a firm? And I think the biggest thing when you're starting off with your business is having feedback.
Yeah.
Having secondary opinions and having other people just kind of chime in and see what has worked in their experience level. And I think sometimes you lack that when you go to an online vendor. Mm-hmm. It's just it's a transaction more so, whereas for us it's more of a relationship building. So
so there are very inexpensive websites online, and I'll give you a situation where we met with a company who was looking to have some print work done, and they had done their logos at one of those websites where people pitch ideas, and it's called crowdsourcing, I think. So they pitch ideas for the logo design, and then ultimately, you can choose who you want to go with and then work with that particular vendor. So they got their logo done there. They were really happy with it. They came in and met with us. Prior to that meeting, knowing that they had done that, I had actually taken the icon portion of the logo, the little graphic that goes with the logo, and I had uploaded it to Google Images, did like a reverse Google lookup, and found out that that particular icon was used in 2 different logos across United States. They weren't the same industries, but it was an icon that was supposedly custom, but it actually wasn't. So just be very clear when you're working with a graphic designer, if you're not working face-to-face, that you have a very clear understanding that this artwork needs to be completely custom and that it's not being used by any other industry. I mean, it is a different industry, so ultimately it's probably okay, but in my opinion, you don't want to have a logo that, is a different industry because it's supposed to be for your industry and for your company specifically. So that's one little tidbit I would say, is that if you're going to use one of those organizations, to try to make sure that it's unique. So if you want to pass me that over there. So one of the things that we do at Tingalls to make sure that it's completely unique is that our designers, I don't know if you can see this here, it's probably backwards, but this is just to kind of showcase some of the sketching that we did for a local organization called Norse Golf Club. They were looking to rebrand, and this is just one of like 12 pages of sketching that our firm does to really truly make sure that the logo ends up being unique and isolated to the company who's requesting it. So if you have a graphic design firm that's willing to provide sketches or kind of show you what their process is, that might help streamline that recycling issue that we've seen online. So.
Well, and I think, and I can't necessarily speak from experience just because I've never requested a logo, but I think my biggest thing is providing value of, reflecting the personality in your logo, different things that stand out to the person who owns the business or whatnot. And for example, for Norse, I think that there was this debate or consideration of wanting to bring in the heritage and what the town is known for, that the golf course is in. And you can see that reflected in the sketches, which I think is really neat. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah. Well, and a company that's going to take the time to sit down with you, understand who you are, your target audience, your mission, your vision, your what the products and services are of the company, I think is really important, because if you can't communicate those pieces of information, you're kind of blindly going into a process where you don't have any background on the company. You have the company name, which most of the time doesn't really say a whole lot about what the people do unless there's a descriptor in there. But so at Tingalls, we really want to get to the meat of who you are as an organization so that the logo is very reflective in that meat. So.
Well, and what the applications are too.
Right. Yeah, so if you do a logo design, and let's say, for example, that logo is going to be put on a car, or it's going to be put on embroidered on a shirt or used in a billboard, you're going to enter that project a little bit differently than if you just knew that it's going to be used on web, or you're going to limit the number of colors that are in that logo to save that client cost. You're going to not use a lot of gradients or a lot of really skinny fonts if you know that it's going to be embroidered. So those are the things that I think comes with a little bit of expertise when you're working with an agency versus an online company or a freelancer that doesn't have a lot of experience. So I think that's a great question to ask.
Yeah, and I think actually people have a lot of questions on the logos, because the other one I pulled out was, how many logo options do I get? And I just feel like, since we're on the topic, we should talk a little bit about that.
So our process for logo design, we do the brainstorm sketch session, and then ultimately what we send our client, the first thing that they see is a black and white version of the logo. So we're going to isolate whatever the icon is, the font is, and we're going to show it to you in black and white. Our feeling on that is that if we put color in too early, you might reject a logo quickly because you don't like purple or you don't like red. So we focus on the black and white. Our designers actually have a really hard time limiting the number of concepts that they give, and sometimes we give upwards of 12 to 15 concepts, which is good and bad. I guess it gives our clients a lot of choices to choose from, but our goal is to get really solid 5 to 7 very different, unique concepts. And again, you may pay per concept with another firm versus getting a whole bunch of different and unique concepts. So
yeah.
While we're on the topic of logo, which I think is good, is what do you get at the end of the process? So I had another client that was working with a freelance company who designed the logo in Photoshop, which is a program that doesn't allow the photo to expand to larger formats. So they put a lot of drop shadows in the logo. They kind of beveled the font to make it look 3D, and it was a cool looking logo, but they needed to put it on their vehicle. And so the company that we used for our vehicle wrapping was like, well, we have to convert this to vector, which is going to give it that expansive capability. And so when you're working with a designer, make sure that they're working in a program like Illustrator or something that's going to give you a vectorized version of the logo. It may not be a version that you can open on your software, but it will be something that's necessary for the embroidery, for a billboard, for large format large format application. Our logo guide that we give our clients at the end of the process is pretty elaborate. It's got color, grayscale, vector, it's got social media icons. It tells you what colors we used, what the fonts are, what the hex values are if you're building a website. So having some sort of a guide at the end of the process, I think, will be really helpful in, we have a question coming. Oh, Emily asked, what does vector mean? So vector means... So there's two different kinds of imagery, raster and vector. If you think of vector, think of the logo having like solid, I know this is hard to describe, but what? You can say.
Math.
It's math? What do you mean?
It's not pixels.
Oh, it's not pixels, right. So when you think of a photo, for example, if you were to take a photo and like blow it up really big, you're going to notice it gets a little bit blurry. So what the application is doing is it's putting pixels where it thinks you want them to go when you're expanding a photo, and that's why photos get a little bit blurry and pixelated and things like that. Vector art is just, it's really hard to describe, but it's just a very mathematical way of looking at artwork so that it can be increased in size without losing any of that resolution. So photography is not vector. So if you have a photo in your logo or something where you have like maybe a person's face in your logo or something like that, it's very difficult to expand that unless you started with like a very high resolution image to begin with. But that's a question that we get all the time is people will be like, hey, somebody that I'm doing work with needs the EPS version or the vector or AI version of my logo. And not a lot of our clients have that unless they used a company like ours to actually create that from scratch. So ask that question when you're working with a designer too.
Wait, you don't just get a JPEG?
We give JPEGs too, because you need JPEGs. I mean, if you're a company and you need it for your invoicing, or if you're putting it on, an email signature or something like that, or Facebook. Let's just said that. You need a RGB version of that. So that is included in our guide, but our guide specifically has like JPEGs, PNGs, or whatever the different file type is, and all of the files are labeled the same. So if you look at a JPEG and you're like, oh, that's the logo I want to send to this magazine or whatever, the EPS version of that has the same label on it. So then you're basically sending the same file. So,
all things I learned when I first started here.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard stuff. That's why you need to outsource it, right? Because as a business owner, you're doing all this amazing stuff with your business and you're focused on that. And a lot of people outsource everyone should be outsourcing their legal and their accounting, to get it off their plate. But, graphic design and marketing, as a whole really should be seen in the same light. We're going to be looking at your company and asking questions that maybe you haven't thought about or areas that you need to market in. We just had a phone call yesterday with somebody who's been open for 3 or 4 months and they're just struggling to get the word out, and they were approached by traditional advertising to do a pretty expensive advertisement, and he wanted to know my thoughts on that. So we talked a little bit about whether or not that magazine was going to be the right target for his audience and whether he should spend those dollars. Ultimately, it did come down to, yes, I think that he should, but then it kind of, the phone call turned into, well, I don't have the skills to do the ad. Can you help me with that? So we're able to help him do the design for the ad versus just him sending his business card and then reprinting that, which to me is not a very solid ad. But it's a child care, it's a daycare program. They do K through preschool. So, talking about what's the right type of avenue for that kind of target audience. It's not potentially a billboard unless there's a billboard right in front of your facility. Maybe it's targeted Facebook advertising. Maybe it's a direct mail marketing campaign. A lot of that does surround budget and what you're looking to spend, but ultimately it's what's going to give you the best bang for your buck and where are you going to get that like really good return on your investment. Mm-hmm. And that's where we can bring some consulting and experience in on that, so that you're not willy-nilly just throwing money, out the window.
Yeah, actually, so I was at a networking event yesterday, and we spoke with someone who was trying to maybe increase his 80-20, right, with more of motivational speaking and talking, more about like his nonprofit and what he does. And he said he didn't have the energy. He didn't want to think about it. He didn't want to do it. And I told him, you know, like just some of the most basic things. Like, do you have a brochure? Do you have a website? And that a lot of times can do the talking. I think word of mouth, since he is like a motivational speaker, can really go far. But yeah, it's one of those things where a lot of people just don't know where to start.
Yeah. And to me, working with my firm, if you haven't done a business plan, that would definitely be a place to start. I was recently interviewed on a radio station. We talked about the importance of a business plan, and then I was recently at a networking event on Wednesday telling me that I should be revising that business plan every other year, which I need to do. So it's important, and a lot of things in a business plan is budgeting and creating a budget and how much you're going to spend on certain things. And to me, marketing should have a line item, absolutely. And if you don't know what that number should be, that's something that we can help you kind of determine as well. So if you're like, I have $5,000 to spend on my marketing, I have no idea how to make that go far. You could spend $5,000 on an ad campaign. That's very easily spendable, but is that your right target market? Is it going to get you in front of the right people? Is the creative going to match your brand and vision? So at Tingalls, $5,000 goes a really long way. I mean, you could do a custom logo with us, business cards, you could get an entry-level website design. So one of the questions we got that was in the little bowl was, what do you offer businesses with, like a package deal? And we don't offer that at Tingalls, only because one size fits all doesn't fit every business. So if you're a business to consumer business, you're going to have a very different target and way of communicating with them than if you're a business to business. There's different social media platforms that you're going to want to be on and things like that. So I would say just get some consulting on that before you spend those dollars. I've done a lot of consulting with people who are starting their business, and they've met with me. We've gone through everything and line itemed all of the products that they need, and they literally put that in their business plan, which then they took to a bank to get funding. So I think the more research you can do ahead of time to make your business look legitimate and that you've pre-planned for those things are going to make you attractive to anyone who wants to endorse you financially.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I agree.
So what time is it? It was 8:22. All right, do we want to grab another question?
Yeah.
Does anybody else ask questions? I think it was just Emily. But we've got 7 people watching. If you're there, give us a little heart or ask us a question. Okay, so this is kind of along the same lines as the logo. So is there a branding option at your company? So not just the logo, do you provide design elements, colors, and t-shirts? LOL. I don't know who sent this question. T-shirt design. We do t-shirt design.
We do.
We do. We'd love to do more t-shirt design. So if you have an event coming up and you're looking for someone to do some cool illustration, instead of just having like logo soup on the back, which is what most races have, a shirt that people might wear again, we'd love to help with that. So let us know if we can help with that. We do offer like a branding guide, but typically a branding guide evolves over time. We rarely will sit down with a client and be like, here's all your colors, here's all your fonts, here's all the graphics that are going to be in your business cards and print. Now you go ahead and go design that. Normally we work with a client and we're like, for example, this is a three-part palm card that we did for them. All of the branding elements that are in these pieces, like the color and the fonts and the photography that we chose, some of the illustrative features that we use in here, even just like this little tiny little branded element piece evolved over the design of these pieces. So for us to like know ahead of time that you're going to need that's pretty hard for us to do. So I would say that we can definitely share those branding elements once they're kind of part of your marketing. But we don't typically like offer that as, we can, but that's not like a product that we sell right off the bat, I guess, without knowing what you need, I guess.
I think we could do it, but it would be kind of a trial and error, and then the branding guide costs more just because you have to kind of adjust it as you see what works and what doesn't work.
Well, and you're having to build the products anyway to put them in the guide. So if you're going to do business cards, letterhead, and envelope, which is a static stationery suite, you have to design that to put it in the guide. So I guess we do build branding guides for our clients every day and all day long, but we don't actually then put them in a guide for them to use internally because they're sending stuff to us to do it. So, but we can, if you have an existing company right now and it's got a pretty established brand and you're bringing like a designer on and you want to teach them about the brand, we can help put together a guide that would communicate what those brand standards are to them. Or if you work with outside vendors and they're putting your brand on, commingling your brand or putting your label design or packaging near theirs, and they want to just see, how to do that, we can help with that. But that most of our clients are small businesses and startups and don't really have a need for like an internal branding guide.
Yeah,
because they're sending it our way.
Well, this question, I think we've already answered. What file types should I ask for when my logo is done?
We have 4 rules at Tingalls for logo design. So we do.
What are they?
You know what they are. So it has to be scalable. So it has to be able to be fit on, a pen, all the way up to a billboard. So it has to be scalable and visible at all of those sizes. And that's difficult, but it is a rule that we try to follow. So we try not to put too much detail in our logos, too many words. A lot of people want their logo and then their slogan and then their website. That's not a logo. The logo is the first part. The other pieces are kind of like a logo descriptor that you can put on like marketing and stuff. But so to be scalable, it has to be easily convertible to one color. That's a hard one in today's day and age because a lot of logos aren't printed in one color. So a lot of people want a lot of color and vibrancy in their logo, and that's fine. But if, let's say, for example, you have to convert that to put it on the back of a t-shirt because you're sponsoring an event, if they're not printing that t-shirt in full color and you only get one color, like white or black, you need to have some version of your logo that's going to still look good. The third is we try to make our logos really timeless. So we try to not use really trendy colors or really trendy fonts. We try to, we want to be on trend. We know that like the Pantone color of the year is going to be gone next year, and the colors that are in the Target aisles for the back to school, they're going to be replaced next year. So those would be what I would consider like trendy, trendy things with logos. And then what's the fourth one? Scalable, one color. Shoot, it'll come to me.
Maybe after the cup
Probably
of coffee?
Probably after I drink the cup of coffee. I'm trying to think. Like, I'll have to call a friend on that one. I should know the answer.
Call a friend?
Call a friend. Hey, Alyssa!
She's watching.
Oh, Alyssa, are you watching? So you want a logo to be scalable, timeless, and convertible in one color. What else should a logo be?
She may also have a client here too.
Oh, well, is Nicole's watching. All right, we'll post it in the notes below the video.
That just makes you have to come back.
Yeah, stay tuned for that fourth thing. I'm gonna remember it in a minute. But
what is the best social media platform for my company? I really do like this question.
Yeah, because you're a social media queen. So.
I just think it depends on where your target audience is, and instead of spreading thin across 4 to 5 platforms, I think it's doing research on who your company is attracting. It's all the rage for people to say like Twitter is dead and nobody's on Twitter anymore. Well, it depends on the location of your business. I do know that it is way more prevalent on the coastal cities and in larger cities. Yeah. It depends if you're like a science company, a government agency, where people are looking for quick information and not necessarily a ton of photos. Mm-hmm. I think if you're a clothing company, your target audience may be more so like on Instagram or Pinterest. If you're
more highly visual platform.
Yeah. Even just paint. I'm remodeling my house right now, and I am going to Pinterest and Houzz and all of these other platforms to look for inspiration and to see like what people have claimed to be the best that aren't necessarily paid reviews or whatnot. So I think it definitely depends. I mean, Facebook's not the be all of platforms.
Yeah.
I do think it's important to be on it, but I think focusing on 1 to 2 different platforms is most important. So
yeah, and even if you're a business to business company and you should be on LinkedIn if you're not already. Have a business page for LinkedIn, not just a personal profile. Have a business page. You can post jobs out there now too, which is awesome. But having a Facebook presence is still important. I think. Because people buy from people, right? So they do buy from companies, but ultimately they buy from people. So what's cool about Facebook now is the scope of Facebook is considerably changing, and I think that might be our focus for our next video, is to talk about how that landscape has changed. But it's very difficult to know, like, posting at certain times isn't really important anymore. I mean, you want to post and you want to get good content on there, But Facebook advertising is really, really awesome if you want to do targeted advertisement to specific region or demographic of, let's say you want to focus your business to business and you want to get in front of female business owners only or something along those lines. You can really get deep into the weeds of Facebook using their insights tools and all that stuff and the ads manager that they have to determine. But a lot of people use Facebook like a Yellow Pages now, where they're searching for, I'm looking for a personal trainer, or I'm looking for a hairdresser. Can you recommend somebody? There's actually a recommend section in Facebook now, which I'm like, I don't know. I think people want to innately help people. So when I see that looking for a recommendation, I always stop and scroll back and be like, oh, I do know someone or I don't know somebody. So Facebook is definitely not dead. And I know people say that it's a lot of like moms and older people that use it, but I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. I think that there's a huge scale of generations using Facebook. Hi, Britt.
I think too, I would say that, for me doing social media management, I have to have an account. Mm-hmm. And I've got family all over the country. And that's just kind of how we keep track, because Instagram doesn't necessarily do a great track of, a great way of tracking like who you are and whatnot.
The one thing I don't like about Instagram, Tingalls has an Instagram page, and I just set up an Instagram page for my Rotary group, is that it doesn't have that engagement level that I think other social medias have, the opportunity to link away from Instagram to go elsewhere. You can't put links in there, and I don't change it Instagram because I like that. But it's, it definitely has a place if you're a highly visual company or you're trying to show process, something along those lines, or need to like showcase how your product works and things like that. Don't discount Instagram as a really good tool for that. Mm-hmm. As well as posting cute cat and dog videos, which I do spiral and watch.
Yeah.
We all do.
Yeah.
Just admit it. We all do. So, well, it's 10:31. We are out of time, but we hope that you'll come back and join us. You kind of have a caliber of, or an idea of what we're going to do for these. So if you have any questions you want to send ahead of time, you can post them in the event, or you can email them to Tara, Tara, at TINGALLS.com, Tara@Tingalls.com, or just shoot us
on the next video.
Yeah, on the next video watch. We're going to try to do it every week. So have your coffee ready for Coffee with Tingalls. This is Tara and Rebecca.
Bye.
Signing off.